They're two happy women bringing you inspiring stories, politics, pop culture, and lifestyle hacks, all with an eye to making our communities and our country a better place to live. It's the Happy Women Podcast with your hosts, Jen Horn and Katie Gorka.
Welcome to another episode of the Happy Women Podcast. I'm Jennifer Horn.
And I'm Katie Gorka.
And I just want to say we are so happy. We're now kind of like getting knee deep into this podcast. And we so appreciate all of you for all the amazing comments, the 5-star reviews, and for subscribing. Keep it up. Share it with your friends. We really appreciate each and every one of you. And Katie, let's jump into it. There is a lot to talk about today as far as the news. It's debate week as we record this, but I live in California, which I talk about all the time. You're in Virginia. And I was doing my morning show on AM 870 in Los Angeles. And the story came up in my newsfeed. And I started to dig around and investigate. And the story was about this middle schooler. His name is Jimmy Hayward. He was going to St. Bonaventure in Huntington Beach. And just for those of you who don't know California, because everybody thinks that it is all crazy liberal, and mostly you're right. It is crazy, crazy liberal almost everywhere. But in this particular place, Huntington Beach, it is like a conservative pocket of California where you have people who are waving American flags and you have Trump signs galore. Like it's a really fun place to go. So when you think of like woke craziness going on, you don't really think of Huntington Beach. Well, Jimmy Hayward is in middle school. And about a month ago, before the end of the year, he was running in running for student council. He was running for commissioner of school spirit and patriotism. Catholic school, you think, okay, no problem. Well, apparently, as all the kids did who were running, they had to turn in their speech before they were actually allowed to give it in front of their classmates. And when the principal saw it, she asked Jimmy to tone it down because he said things like, I hate when I see people not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And then she said, well, it sounds a little too political, a little too overtly patriotic. And so he went home to his parents and he said to his mom, I'm running for office of commissioner of school spirit and patriotism. Of course, my speech is going to be patriotic. That's the office that I'm running for. And so his mother said, Jimmy, just go ahead and give the speech as you wanted to give it. Well, he got sat down. He got embarrassed in front of his friends. The mother then tries to post her side of the story on the school website, on their community Facebook page. And she did a petition to get the principal removed for embarrassing her kid. Well, that didn't sit well with the principal of that school. So the mother received a phone call from the principal that said that Jimmy Hayward was being expelled from school. And not only was he being expelled, but they were also going to send away his two sisters, I think ages 4 and 11.
Oh my gosh, this is incredible.
Is that insane? And Katie, you and I went to Catholic school all 12 years. And my mom was a public school teacher in California. She taught for LA Unified for 30 years. She made it a point to send me to private school, to Catholic school. It surprised me that this was happening at a private school in Huntington Beach and not in the middle of LA Unified. But I mean, think about this. The whole family now has to find a new place to go, a new school to go to. And I bet they want to after all this treatment, because this isn't what you do to celebrate a kid's patriotism or to celebrate his love for our country.
I'm shocked. I'm speechless. I mean, I say, thank goodness for the kid. Thank goodness for the mom for standing up for her child and showing that you can stand up to this stuff. But I'm just, I'm so upset to hear that they have had to pay such a price.
So you want to hear what was so dang controversial? You want to see what really upset the school principal? We actually have a bit of the speech. It was about 3 minutes in total, but take a listen. Here's a piece of it. You see if you're offended by what Jimmy Hayward had to say.
As Commissioner of Patriotism and School Spirit, I'm responsible for history-related topics. With this in mind, I would like to coordinate with Ms. Flock events such as meeting Holocaust survivors, 9/11 survivors, Japanese Americans from internment camps, and more. I felt this would strengthen the knowledge of history within myself and others. Modest additions regarding history and patriotism I desire are historical facts in the morning and coordinating with the Commissioner of Publicity to add history to the billboards. My love for America is my motivation for running for Commissioner of Patriotism and School Spirit. It is an honor to live in this country. Sadly, some people take their citizenship for granted, whether it is disrespecting the people who protect us or eating nachos during the national anthem at a sporting event. Many people recite the Pledge of Allegiance without understanding its meaning. If someone doesn't truly know what they are pledging to the United States of America, they might as well be reciting the lyrics to Shake It Off by Taylor Swift.
Now, we're going to hear a little bit more, but does this kid not give you goosebumps? I mean, this guy is a star. And you and I talk a lot about civics and about loving our country and how that's missing in schools. And here's a young man who says we need to bring back people's ability to understand our history. We need to bring in Holocaust survivors. We need to bring in people who were in Japanese internment camps. We need to bring in historical facts every single day about our country. How can that be bad?
Well, I was particularly impressed with his list of people that he thought we should talk to, because honestly, that kind of runs the gamut from left to right. So I really can't figure out yet what he has said that is upsetting to anybody. But can I also just give a little shout out to his sister? I'm assuming that's his sister, the one holding the sign. She reminds me a little bit of a young Drew Barrymore in E.T., but I love the whole scene. All right. So I'd love to hear the rest of it. Do you have more?
Okay, here's a little more. Now, I can only tell you, I think the one thing that might have ruffled the feathers, check out his hat when we play your next clip here on the video.
I did notice.
It's a red hat. For those of you listening to us, looks a lot like Make America Great Again hat. All right, here's a little more from Jimmy Hayward.
I want to fix this so everyone understands the meaning of the Pledge of Allegiance. As the Commissioner of Patriotism, I would have the crucial task of creating ways to bring more patriotism to SBS. I love my country, and I love St. Bonaventure, but I want to strengthen our patriotism in school spirit. So accordingly, I, Jimmy Hayward, am running for Commissioner of Patriotism in School Spirit. I want to clarify that my ideas are not promises, but I can promise to make pep rallies great again. I will make the school spirit great again. I will make patriotism within SBS great again. And mostly, I will make SBS great again. Thank you, and God bless St. Bonaventure Catholic School.
I got to tell you, I think the issue is the fact that he's saying, I'm going to make St. Bonaventure great again. And yep, that's it. It's it. I just find it incredible because that was a great speech.
And what a bunch of great ideas.
I
mean,
know.
these ideas, I want to write them down. You and I talk a lot about engaging and winning. We're going on a cruise together. We're going to have an hour-long panel talking about how people engage. This kid's got great ideas. I want to bring him along and recruit him for our program, because he is talking about real things that can be done to help kids appreciate the country that they come from. And because he's wearing a red hat, and because he said, make St. Bonaventure School great again, you have to imagine that the principal is triggered by those words. And sadly, I wish that it was something else. I wish it was something horrific that he was saying, because how ridiculous that you're going to shut someone down simply because of the hat they're wearing or because they say a phrase like make St. Bonaventure School great again. That's triggering for liberals and leftists who just think anything having to do with President Trump or any reference to him should be eliminated.
Well, and I think it just shows their bullying tactics, the fact that they think they can. I mean, it's unbelievable. Not just that the kid was shamed, but that they've kicked them out of the school. How is there not a lawsuit in the making there?
I know. And maybe there will be, because this mom's been getting a lot of attention. Fox News nationally picked up this story.
Oh, good.
She's been on Fox News at night, local stations even. What's really interesting, and this is what gives me just a tiny bit of hope about local television, is that several local television outlets actually had her on as well, telling her story. And so, we give a lot of grief to the news media, and they deserve a lot of grief. But I'm going to say props to at least some of the LA outlets who have covered this story, because it could have been buried. So we'll see what happens. But St. Bonaventure has not only kicked out Jimmy for defying orders, but also the sisters now, probably because the mom has been loud in defending her kid. So I don't know. If I were the family, I'd say if you don't want a kid like that there, we're better off at another school. It's just really sad that it happens in Catholic education, but interesting there. So that's the story of Jimmy Hayward. Now it is also, Katie, debate week. And it's very early. We're just at the end of June. And we've got our next debate scheduled, or our first debate of the cycle scheduled for June 27th in Atlanta, Georgia. You've got President Biden and President Trump. Much different preparation. Their preparation looks a lot different. There's been a funny meme floating around where it shows Trump's debate preparation, which is like a can of Diet Coke. And then you've got Joe Biden's debate preparation, which is like syringes and pills and all kinds of stuff. He's been under lock and key at Camp David. What are your initial thoughts before we actually even see the debate? Because a lot of people are very curious as to what this is going to look like.
Well, I'll tell you a funny little story. The way we actually got connected to Trump was because of his debate prep for the original 2016 election, the debates leading up to that. I think it was Steve Bannon and Corey Lewandowski reached out to Sebastian because Trump wanted to do prep on foreign policy. So I'm just going to say, it's not a super well-known story, but I think Trump also takes his debate prep very seriously. What I'm really intrigued to see, I love the story that I just heard. I was listening to Trump's rally I think it was the one in Philadelphia, where he admitted that Franklin Graham had sat him down and said, President Trump, I love what you do. You're a great president. You're doing a great job for us. But I just want to ask you one thing. Would you please clean up your language? And Trump just does such a funny riff on this. We've all joked about the fact that, everybody has said, we love President Trump if he would just tone down the mean tweets. And I feel like finally he's listening. So he admits in this rally speech, he says, well, so I'm trying hard. I might let it slip once in the course of a speech, but I'm doing better. So I think it'll be really interesting to see what he's like when he steps up to the podium. And I personally, you and I are different in this because you love Trump the fighter. I love Trump the elder statesman. I'm thinking of, there was one particular State of the Union address where he was just so presidential, so strong. I love it when he goes that way. I know you like it when he goes sort of down and dirty. So it'll be interesting to see which Trump is it that steps up to the podium on Thursday night.
Look, I love when he is presidential. And I really think most of the time, Trump, he's so acutely aware of television because of his role on The Apprentice and creating such a fantastic, I would say just a huge marketing success with The Celebrity Apprentice. But what I think is funny is that he usually selects the right tone, I think, when he is speaking. But I do love the statesman Trump. I love that. I also love, my very favorite Trump is the self-deprecating Trump, because I think that humanizes him and I think it makes him connect with people. And I love seeing that. I love watching him speak in a crowd of people. And I like finding the ones who kind of have the emotionless face. And then by the end of his speeches, they're smiling and they're laughing and they're engaged. But I don't mind the rough and tumble Trump, because you know what I'd rather have all day long is someone who is real with me rather than someone who is putting on airs. And so if that's Trump's personality, show it. I know that I am in the minority in many cases that people like to see a more polished Trump, but this campaign, I feel like I am loving what I'm seeing. He's striking the right note, even under the most extreme stress. He's got to be completely frustrated. He's carrying a lot of anger into this debate against Joe Biden, but I still am convinced that we're going to see a Trump that's going to hold Biden accountable for the mistakes that he's made, that's going to talk about and tout his achievements in the past. But I think what I always love about President Trump is, despite what people say about him and his personality, he loves this country, and he always has a sense of optimism about making the country better. And what I cannot stand about Democrat politicians, particularly this administration, but I think Obama's administration does it too. They love to talk badly about America and the problems of America, but they never talk about the fact that there's solutions and that we can continue to get better. That's what Trump does. He'll talk about the problems that we have today, but it's never like we've lost. It's always like we are on the path to make things better. And that's, no matter what you think of Trump or his tone or sometimes the salty language, I think that's what I think is most important for people who connect with him when they see him live in person. So I'm excited to see that. I think he's going to be ready for this debate. I think Joe Biden has so much more to lose because he has to prove that he can stand up and that he can take 90 minutes worth of questions. Because think about that, Katie. We haven't seen him answer more than maybe 2 or 3 questions in a row ever. I mean, at least in the last couple of years.
And he so often fumbles.
Yeah.
But I just want to say too, I don't want to utterly dismiss the tough fighter Trump because, no, seriously, I think this may even have been a point that you originally made to me. I think part of what is so important about President Trump is that he has shown to all of us that we can stand up to the bullies.
Yes.
This incredible story you've just told us is a perfect example of the left's bullying of us conservatives. And Trump has showed us that we don't have to put up with that. And so, I do love the fact that he stands up to it. And I just want to say one other thing, because I feel like I had an argument, a discussion the other day with somebody who said, but isn't Trump really just narcissistic? And isn't he doing this just to prove that he can win? And, I couldn't disagree more. I think if anybody comes across as narcissistic and self-obsessed and self-interested, it's Joe Biden. Right. All these ridiculous stories he trots out about he did this, he was this, he's actually Hispanic, he's actually done this and done that. Whereas I think what you cannot argue against is the powerful sense you get from Trump of both his love for the country, but his real love and interest in people.
Yeah.
You feel it. You feel it when you meet him. I mean, the things that he does, the things that he says. And I think that's why, he is so effective at drawing these crowds of tens of thousands, because they can feel that he really cares about what they're suffering, what they're experiencing. And his hope is infectious.
I'm going to tell you a little story. I don't know if I've shared this with you. And if I have, well, I'm sharing it again. You can pretend. But I will say, you're trying to tell me that Joe Biden's Uncle Bosie didn't get eaten by cannibals. Is that what you're trying to tell me? That's my favorite Bidenism. It's amazing. He's done everything, said everything, and been the best at everything. But you and I actually were together at Mar-a-Lago a couple of years ago for the launch of a movie. And when we were leaving, I got into an Uber because it's very hard to get out of Mar-a-Lago when an event is letting out. So I shared an Uber with some friends of ours. They get dropped off first because their hotel was a little closer. And then I was in the Uber by myself with the driver. And so I just love talking to people. You know that. I love to make conversation. And so I just asked him how his evening was. And he said, "Oh, you were at Mar-a-Lago." He's like, "How was it? Did you like it?" And I said, "I really did." And he goes, "Well, I used to work there." And I said, "Really? You worked at Mar-a-Lago?" And he's like, "Yeah." He said, "I wish I still did." He said, "I absolutely loved it there." And I said, "Well, really, what happened? And how was President Trump?" And he said, "Oh my gosh." And keep in mind, this is someone who immigrated here. I think he was from Haiti. I think he told me, if I remember right, came from nothing, comes to Florida and gets a job at Mar-a-Lago. He was working in the kitchen. And he said that President Trump would come through the kitchen almost every day. He said some days it would, you'd see him every other day, but he knew everybody's name. He knew everybody's family. He'd stop and listen and find out how your mother's doing or how your wife is doing. And he would remember their names and have conversations with you about that and tell you to have a great day. And I guess he said they would treat him really well. They always sent their families home with food and stuff like that. I mean, he said that it was incredible, but he was worried because I guess he lived in a bad area and there were some bad people around. And he thought that he was going to maybe be a way for someone to exploit his presence to Mar-a-Lago. And so he actually left the job in an effort to keep people safe there. And I thought, oh my gosh, this guy is like, I don't know what he was up to. I didn't ask. I should have. But you hear those stories from people who say when you meet President Trump face to face, he knows what's going on. I can't imagine that Joe Biden remembers much about anybody's name. My goodness, he can't even remember what Kamala Harris's job.
Yeah, no, I think Thursday's going to be a lot of fun. And I will say, I think there's a lot of interest. So yeah. Here in Fairfax, one of our district chairs thought it would be fun to have a few people to the local pub for a watch party. And he put the word out and they're having to turn people away. Like over 100 people have signed up for this event. And I think people are interested. I think they're excited.
Yeah.
So I'll be
Me
watching.
too. I know.
Absolutely.
I'll be working and watching. We'll be doing it all together. All right. So speaking of Virginia, I do want to ask you about this because you and I are going to be together on a cruise. I'm so excited. Our Patriots Alaska cruise is coming up. We'll be there. Of course, your husband, Dr. G, is going to be there. Chris DeGaulle and Mike Gallagher. It's just going to be a really nice time. And 400 Patriots are going to be coming with us. And I'm excited. But unfortunately, President Trump did not call you to check your schedule first. He's going to be rallying in Virginia and you're going to be on a plane. So you're going to miss this, but this is still really exciting that Virginia is actually back in play for 2024.
Yes, but he is in the doghouse that he did not coordinate with my schedule. We are so upset to be missing this. But I've also been told by the campaign that they think it is highly likely that Trump will be back and will make an appearance in Northern Virginia. So no, this has been I would say this has been a great couple of weeks for me as chair of the Fairfax GOP. Because I have engaged with the RNC, who I'm just so impressed with the new leadership and the ways they are just really engaging with the grassroots. This is a whole new day for the Republican Party. I'm telling you, I'm so excited.
I'm so happy to hear you say that because I feel like that's what's happening. So I'm happy that you're having that experience.
Yeah, no, it is. It's incredible. And the other thing I'll tell you is they are so well prepared. I think more will come out in the days ahead. But they are so well prepared for any, first of all, election integrity, which is hugely important. And if you're interested in this topic, go on to the RNC website. There's a button to push for election integrity, and you can sign up and get involved as a volunteer. They're looking for lawyers. They're looking for poll watchers. So there are all kinds of ways to get involved so people can go there and sign up. But here's the other thing that I was really excited about. So things were kind of quiet here for a while. People within our own Fairfax GOP were complaining, where are the Trump signs? We want Trump signs, and we didn't have any. Of course, here in the Gorka household, we have them. We have them in our yard, but that's because my husband has them. I was going to say,
you like a printing press back there, don't you?
Exactly. So we've got our Trump sign, but they weren't widely available, and I felt like there's nothing happening. What's happening here? And finally, they transitioned out one guy who's moved on to other things, but they've just hired the new director for the Trump campaign in Virginia. And he told me, and this is just so exciting, that they have transitioned Virginia from being a small footprint state to a large footprint state. They are hiring up a large number of staff here, and they are going to be working closely with us to turn out the voters. And they are optimistic about Virginia. So just makes me really excited.
I love that. I feel like there are some states that are in play that wouldn't have been. I mean, it's not just Virginia, but people are looking at Maine. I mean, I was looking at the numbers because a lot of times when I go out and speak, I'll check out the polling. The polling on different demographic groups is so powerful. He's polling twice. He's basically doubled his popularity with Black voters. In some polls, he's leading Biden with Latino voters, 46-40. Young voters, I mean, it seems like there's a huge turnaround there. He's very close with young voters. I mean, it feels like we're on the right path. It feels like people are done. They feel like they were promised things in 2020 that weren't delivered. And certainly there isn't strong leadership coming out of the Biden administration anywhere. And I think people crave that. But we'll see, because it will come down to those swing states. It will come out to momentum. And I think the top thing as we kind of walk into elections, which we will, taking away from the debate, I don't know if it's going to be there to change anybody's minds, but it is going to be there to decide which candidate is going to collect the most momentum and drive the most voters to the polls come November. And I think that's really, really important.
Wait, and on that note, I want to underscore the importance of the fact that Trump just did a rally in Philadelphia. Yeah. So, and unless you've dug deep into Philadelphia politics, you may not realize the depth of the corruption in that city.
It's the biggest swamp, I think, in our country, honestly.
It is terrible. The stories that you hear about, and it featured in 2000 Mules, the ballot box stuffing that went on there. But they've got a whole system set up where people go out and with money collect ballots. Right. And so the fact that he went to Philadelphia, I mean, they have multiple precincts in Philadelphia which go 100% Democrat. Think about that. So the fact that he did a rally there, the fact that Scott Pressler is so active there and going into Philadelphia and registering voters and reaching out to voters is really, really important. And I just love the fact that Trump is not just reaching out to the traditional Republican voters, but he recognizes that those voters are everywhere, and he's going even into the hard places.
Detroit, and that black church in Detroit, amazing. I know. And the Philadelphia, it's true. And filling up in New Jersey, 100,000 people. And in New York, I mean, he's going to places where Republicans typically don't go. And this is a lesson, by the way, for Republican parties and for candidates, is to not forget any nook and cranny. In California, Latino voters get left behind a lot by the Republican Party. They're the party they're the group of people, they're the demographic that will save our state because they are socially conservative. We should be reaching out and welcoming and encouraging. And I think that Trump is a great leader in that respect, especially in that lane. All right, let's talk about some races, shall we? Election time, Colorado, New York. Jamal Bowman is on the ballot today. Remember Mr. Fire Alarm? It seems he could be the first member of the squad who's been maybe given the boot. We'll see about that. But what do you think? What are you watching in some of these races, Katie?
Yeah, to tell you the truth, I wasn't paying that close attention because I'm so focused on Virginia, and we had our own primary just last Tuesday. So, but I was on the radio this morning with David Webb, a broadcaster I love who broadcasts out of New York. And he reminded me of that race happening today. And he was talking about, how striking it is that you've got these openly Marxist, openly socialist members of Congress, but that some of the most radical progressive are having a hard time. And Bowman is one of the ones that he named. So Jamal is being challenged for his seat, and it's going to be really interesting. And one of the things he's getting hammered for, aside from the fire alarm incident, is the fact that he has been so critical of Israel. Right. And he has referred to Israeli genocide in Gaza, and he's tried to deny that girls were raped, and he's tried to deny what actually happened to those Israelis who were attacked on October 7th. So I say, good riddance. I hope he gets brought down.
I hope he does too. And it sends a message to get in line and to start listening to what your constituents are saying, not just what kind of crazy talk you want to spew out there. And the truth does matter. And in Colorado, Lauren Boebert, who was, we thought, maybe going to lose her seat. It seems like the polls have kind of switched into her favor. So we'll see how she does. And it's always interesting to watch. Utah's.
Well, that's an interesting race because she had to change districts, right? Am I not mistaken? Yeah.
So, and it's funny because I feel kind of kinship to that area because my grandparents, my mom's dad and stepmom, they retired in Grand Junction. And so that was her original district. And it is a very conservative piece of California. I think one of the funniest things, my grandfather unfortunately just passed away a couple of years ago, and not even 2 years ago. And we were there and he was kind of on the decline. That's a sad time for families. But I was driving back from the hospital where he was back to the house for the night. And I laughed out loud because it shows you how conservative this area was. There was a big black truck with a Trump sticker on the back. And I looked and I said, that's the littlest sticker. And then I realized someone had X-Acto knifed the Pence part off and pulled and I thought that was, that could have been just my little reminder to laugh a little bit in a sad time. But yes, that would X-Acto knifed the Pence part off, which I thought shows you exactly the heart of the Grand Junction voter. So we'll see. There are conservative parts of Colorado. She probably still has a chance. We'll see if she's able to make it, but we'll keep an eye on those elections. And gosh, that's going to do it for us. Another great episode of Happy Women. We thank you so much. Please share. And if you have not subscribed, subscribe, make us a regular part of your routine. And and spread the word. 5-star reviews, as we mentioned, are fabulous. You can connect in all the places, video, audio, podcast at SalemPodcastNetwork.com. Also, Katie's got a book out right now. It's called Next Gen Marxism. You got to pick it up. I might need to bring my copy on the cruise so you can sign it for me. I got to remember to do that. I need an autograph copy. And you should get that wherever you get your books. You can also go to katiegorka.org. You can find her on Facebook. Just search Catherine Gorka. And you can find me on social media too. I'm poking around. Jennifer Horn Radio on Facebook and Instagram, and Jennifer Horn on Truth and on X. And we thank you so much for being with us. This is a Happy Women podcast.